With all the exciting new additions coming with the Age of Sorcery Chapter 3, I thought I'd look into the Journey system revamp. Previously, the Journey has been something that most players probably do as a byproduct of just playing the game, but the new system aims to add a little more structure and guidance if you want to follow it. Does the system work? Well, let's find out. For reference, in the footage you'll see, I'll be playing through the first couple of journeys that a new character will encounter within the first 30 to 60 minutes of gameplay. The new journeys are accessed through the Journey tab and are always visible in the top right. When I spawned in, I could see 28 journeys in total. However, when you manage to get all the requirements, there are a total of 42 covering a wide variety of topics. It seems that the journeys are intended to introduce you to a different facet of gameplay without fully holding your hand and walking you through it entirely. The first journey, for example, teaches you the very basics of how to play and the integral systems like clothing, crafting, cooking and fighting. These systems are then built upon further as the journeys become more specialised into different aspects of the game like smelting, alchemy, farming, etc. Later on, you'll also be introduced to new mechanics like thrall taking and converting, boss fights, raiding, religion, but those happen later on. It seems they're laid out decently apart so you're not overwhelmed by all these tasks to do at once, which is pretty good. In terms of how they actually perform, the 3 journeys I did over the course of my playtime were pretty good. Survivor is your basic introduction to the game, teaching you all the core systems but also falling back on the knowledge you've just been taught to allow you to fill in the gaps in the instructions, which I think is a good way for a new player to learn. The second journey, named Survival Shelter, introduced the very basics of home building and how to create a shelter to keep yourself and your belongings safe. It also introduces you briefly to the construction hammer so you get at least somewhat familiar with that tool. For such a detailed and subjective process like building, it's a good introduction that I think a new player could grasp pretty well. That being said, I didn't see anything mentioned about the shelter system, although that system is pretty easy and self-explanatory. The third and final journey I completed, Warrior, was an interesting introduction to combat and different types of weapons. It briefly explained dodging and alternative attacks, and how to lock on and perform light and heavy attacks. It also touched on status effects from weapons, which is something important to the combat system, and it was nice to see it actually explained rather than just left to be discovered. I had a look through all the other journeys and the steps you need to do to complete them too. Overall, it seems like a very well-rounded set of challenges that don't hold your hands too much, as they do introduce you to all the various aspects of Conan. Additionally, some of the later challenges do challenge you with pretty tough tasks. Namely, I saw one where you'll have to visit a variety of different dungeons and locations, and I saw another one where you're required to summon the avatar of a god. Obviously, if you're playing single player or PvE, the latter won't really have much of an effect, but at least it teaches you those more in-depth systems and kind of introduces you to the sort of farming you'll need to do if you wish to go down that route in PvP. Of course, you might be asking, why would an experienced player bother with this system? Well, rewards. There are 42 journeys and each of them has at least one reward, with some having 2. These rewards scale from basic supply crates and survival kits to the epic quality Valeria's sword, some armours, and even some improved versions of the dismantling bench and the Tanner's table. These rewards will likely be desirable to many, and thus even experienced players will likely want to engage with the journey system to unlock these rewards. I'll be making a separate video on all the rewards you get from completing all the journeys. I will say, in my time doing the Warrior journey, I did spot some inconsistencies or just miscommunications in certain aspects. The Warrior journey is the first real dive into combat, and it instructs you to craft a stone club and a stone pike. After the club, you're instructed to sunder an enemy, and after the pike, you're instructed to inflict cripple. Neither of these effects can be triggered by the weapon you're instructed to create. The tooltips for the journey do tell you that other types of weapons will work for this objective, but for somebody brand new to Conan, they may be confused as to why the weapon they've just crafted cannot complete the status effect challenge. I also noticed a similar issue in the Homesteader journey, which instructs you to craft an artisan bench to create a chair and a table, though most chairs require shaped wood, which you'd have to work out on your own how to acquire, or you'd have to complete the Master Mason journey. This may be an intentional design to encourage people to kind of think outside the box and work out their own path through things, which can be an effective method of teaching, but also I do feel like it could end up feeling like something that hasn't been communicated all that well, especially to a new player. It's pretty hard for me to put myself in a new player's shoes, but I feel like if I'd only been playing for 20 minutes, I wouldn't be able to work out why my club wasn't inflicting sunder, or how to get shaped wood. In terms of usability, the new journey system is very satisfying. It gives you clear instructions for the most part, and instant visual and auditory feedback when you complete a step. The UI design is nice and clean, and the menu is satisfying to interact with. I do think the journey dialogue in the top right does slightly clutter the screen, however, there is a toggle for that in the gameplay menu of the settings, so you can get rid of it when you've completed your journeys if you wish. Overall, very satisfying to use and interact with, and the information is presented well. Overall, the Journey's revamp is pretty good. The previous system was kind of interesting but felt a bit underdeveloped and never really incentivised you to interact with it. Additionally, it was very heavily based on lore and story, which is something new players might not really want to wish to engage with when they're trying to learn the game. This new system seems like a marked improvement over the past system, helping new players to learn the basics whilst not being fully handheld through the various intricacies and details of each system they're shown. The reward incentive, alongside the satisfying visual and auditory feedback given, encourages progression through the journeys and will give experienced players a reason to engage with what is essentially a tutorial system. Of course, in my opinion, I'm probably not the target audience for this new feature. I have over 2,700 hours played, and though I do mostly focus on building and lore, I'm fairly comfortable with the game's systems. However, I did find the journeys interesting and engaging, and I think for new players this system is a massive boon, and Conan will only benefit from having it in place. Funcom have done a really good job with this revamp. Thank you for watching. There's still some other stuff to cover from the Age of Sorcery Chapter 3, namely of course the golems, but I'll also be looking into the new armour sets you can earn and all the rewards from the journey system. I've got plenty of Chapter 3 content coming, so make sure you subscribe to ensure you don't miss the next video. As always, a massive thank you to our esteemed coffee cultists over on Patreon for supporting the channel. Again, thank you very much for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.